if you in this fitness world and you training, don't just think, okay, I'm good. Go get yourself checked out, get everything checked, because I didn't realize what was going on inside me till I actually went in and looked.
All right, very deep and heavy show today. Definitely the saddest show. Again, welcome to everybody that's in the chat today. Sec Amethyst asked, did he have blood clots? There's no official autopsy as yet. What they said was heart attack. It was on the treadmill, presumably walking. Yes, Iguazu's daughter. Initial word was heart attack. Yeah, Angelique, you know, like I said, I wasn't going to do this till I watched some of these videos, and I was like, yeah, I think maybe, you know, maybe hit some people more, let's say. I think there's this myth out there that, yeah, you just take these things, everything can be okie dokie, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, it's not that this stuff hasn't been happening for years, but pre-social media and the internet, yeah, most people just weren't aware of it. Plus, for every famous person like this, it's like that guy we looked at the other day somewhere in Eastern Europe. 10, 15 years ago, nobody ever heard of that guy. Right, but just now, because you can just imagine how long this has been going on. Yes, skincare do's and don'ts. This is so unfortunate. I agree, very unfortunate. D Baker says apparently 250 pounds of muscle is clearly not good for your heart. You know, that is true. But D Baker, and welcome to the show, by the way. Also, there are people a lot smaller than him that have had issues from PEDs. Right, there are people smaller than him, like 220, 200. I mean, I'm 195. You know, 220 is not that far away, to be honest. Yeah, there are people that, again, they're not pros, because, you know, the typical person that's on this stuff is not a professional, actually. It's just an amateur person. And some of them don't even look like they're taking anything, because either they have crappy genetics or their diet sucks, so they're taking stuff. And I don't remember if I told this story. I'm working on the gym. There's this young guy beside me working on it. He starts talking to this older guy and starts talking about what cycle he's on. And I remember thinking, at the time, it was funny. It's not so funny now. Yeah, I remember thinking, if I was this guy, I would want a refund, because if you look at him, he was slim. But if you saw him on the street, you would not think he's taking anything. You wouldn't even be sure he works out. That's how normal he looked, right? So again, a lot of this stuff is genetics. Greg talks about this in other videos. You've got other people touching this as well. But people think, oh, I take this stuff, I'll look superhuman. Not necessarily. Just like if you take these supplements, you're not going to look like these guys. They're selling an illusion. Iguazu's daughter says most of these bodybuilders pass from cardiac issues. Iguazu's daughter says the growth hormones they take cause not only their external muscles to grow, but also internal musculature like the heart, cardiac tissue. You're right, that's a muscle. Can make things grow. Like when you're a kid, that stuff is growing, but as an adult, it's not supposed to grow anymore. Sure, Iguazu's daughter goes on to say their hearts grow faster than the support network, nerves, synapses, adequate vascular to support this axillary tissue, and everything is off. Back to my analogy with the car, right? You soup up your car. That was the phrase when you modify your car. You know, say you get a car with, I'm making up a number, 300 horsepower, you're going to modify it to 400. Maybe that internal structure is fine at that level, but no, if you get to 500-600 horsepower, perhaps that's when you need to be upgrading the gearbox, right? You could break the gearbox, the suspension. You could snap something. And I had a drag racing license. I've seen this, you know, at the strip where car is very fast and then pow, it just goes kaput, because you're taking a stock car from the manufacturer. It's built in with all these tolerances, and you're suddenly gone way past them. It's the same thing with the human body. You can go way past the tolerances, let's say. It's like smoking. One person could smoke and be fine for decades. Another person smoke and could get lung cancer. People also think, oh, well, you know, I'm not a pro bodybuilder. That can't happen to me. But again, we just saw this other dude, regular dude with a heart attack, right? Iguazu's daughter goes on to point out irregular heartbeats, cardiac arrest, etc. is soon to follow. I wanted to do some show on this kind of stuff, but before, several people died the last, 2 months or something, or at least 2 people I can think of. But I did the one on the heart attack. See, because he survived. I didn't want to deal with anybody that passed away. But this one was just very super duper moving to me. Thanks for the super chat, Positive Therapist. Positive Therapist says a study published in Motivation and Emotion offers evidence that unmet basic psychological needs may be linked to the drive for muscularity in some bodybuilders. Oh, I'm going to read that again. A study published in Motivation and Emotion offers evidence that the unmet basic psychological needs may be linked to the drive for muscularity in some bodybuilders. I could believe that. Thanks for the super chat, Uwezimana. This really shows how important for people, especially men, to listen to doctors and go to yearly checkups. Condolences to his family and those who care for him. Yep, that's the thing, you know, even if you're just a regular person, you need to regular checkups. Men are notoriously bad at this, right? Notoriously bad at this. I remember a friend of mine telling me one of our coworkers sick, coughing, kept coming to trying to do work, and then finally when he went, had the flu or pneumonia, I think, and passed away. All very preventable, right? Yeah, if something is off, you got to go see a doctor. Don't try to be some tough guy. Again, it's usually guys, not women. Just see a doctor. Worse if you're doing stuff. You see, the unfortunate thing is from what I understand, the typical person out here doing this stuff, they're just doing it bro science willy-nilly, stupid stuff they read on the internet. Oh, do this, do that. And when you look at these YouTubers, there's one I debated doing. This guy his acne looked like something out of a horror film. That's the best way to describe it. But I thought maybe it would be too much for you guys to handle. And the crazy part is a normal looking dude, he was slim and started taking and he went from slim to, again, Adonis, perfect physique. Every dude would love to look like him. Every woman would love their guy to look like him. And then this crazy acne was coming on his chest and it got disgusting. That's the best way to describe it. It looked like literally something out of a horror film. And it would come and go. And he chronicles this stuff and he posts on it. Thankfully, he did this. Hopefully, stuff like that scares away other people. But, when you're young, what's that saying? Young, dumb, and full of, blank, the C word. Tamika Funderberg says, that's true, Iguazu's daughter. Their muscles grow faster than the support network. Yeah, this is so true. You can't rush what God took years to formulate, straight up. Yeah, I've seen people literally go from, let's say, slightly below me or nothing close to me to way beyond me in months. No exaggeration. I've seen this with my own eyes in front of my face, and I was like, wow. I can see why that stuff is very tempting to utilize. Because, the Marvel movie Captain America, when the guy, he goes in that device and comes out looking, and everybody's like, whoa. The ladies are like, woo. Yeah, this stuff is like that. You can literally transform that dramatically in months, a year. That's very doable, very realistic. So that is, I can only imagine being quite the head rush. I guess the analogy for ladies would be if you were some regular looking lady with flat chest, flat derriere, and suddenly magically your boobs grew and your face got prettier and your butt grew. That's the only analogy I can think of. That's got to be quite the mind trip, right? And it'd be hard to give that up, let's say. It'd be hard to give that up. Angelique said, do you think science will begin to explore possible organs such as heart, lungs to support the body of a body? If you, building them, I guess eventually, in science fiction novels, they have that kind of stuff. But science is so far from that, because the thing is, Angelique, it's not just as simple as the heart, lungs, right? Ziegler's daughter was saying, it's all the other support structures, the nerves, the this, the that, your brain to regulate things. The human brain is just so powerful and complicated. What did they estimate? We use 10, 20% of our brain power. There's just so much we don't understand about the body, the human body. Just so much we do not understand. Even if you was to have a different heart, let's say, you don't know what some other problems can create. Angelique asked, do bodybuilders get diabetes? Yes, they do. They do. Some of these drugs totally screw up their insulin sensitivity. Plus, some of them take insulin as well. On purpose, even if they're not diabetic. I think I've used this quote before. The two groups of people that are most cutting edge with stuff to put in our body are horse trainers and bodybuilders. Horse trainers because they're willing to pump the horse full of anything, and bodybuilders because they're willing to pump themselves full of anything. These people are very cutting edge, for lack of a better word. And things they do later filter down to, let's say, Olympic professional athletes. They're also cutting edge, and then it filters down to wealthy people, and then it filters down to us mere mortals, right? This is what, 15, 20, 30 years process. Iguazu's daughter says, I think I missed Tamika's comment earlier. Response to Angelique, I really don't know how science is going to be able to recreate the intricate network that supports our major organs, especially when you're pushing your body to the max. Yeah, that's what I was trying to say about the other support structures, not just the big pieces that you see. Skincare do's and don'ts, that's a good question. I wonder if many of the bodybuilders have body dysmorphia. I can't answer that, but I do know, like I said, I've seen guys and ladies, usually the guys though, where to me, incredible physiques that they're all covered up. I used to think maybe it's just that they've looked like that so long they don't care to wear a tank top or something. Because the thing is, right, when you get to a certain level of leanness, because remember, that the look they have, that crazy leanness, can't keep it all the time, right? Like we discussed before, it'll take photo shoots, a ton of photos one time of the year. And then you see in their off season, they're bigger. Like, you notice in the first clip when he's in the hospital, his face is fatter because most likely it's the off season, right? So they're not walking around super duper lean all the time. But that too can play something on your mind. Once you step on stage and look crazy lean and look fantastic, and you're like, later on, you're like, man, I don't look like that. You can still look good. You look better than 99% of people on the planet, especially if you compete in the smaller sizes. But you will still know that, man, there's this other level I can get to. You know, there's this other level I can get to where I'm just like the baddest dude or the baddest chick. You know, you walk, it's like when you're young and hot, you walk into any place and you know you're the baddest dude or the baddest chick in there. Yeah, this is what this kind of stuff does. And for those of us who have never been the baddest dude or the baddest chick, if you can take this stuff and it can make you, remember the lady that called in, right? You remember she said she looked so hot, she didn't need to try stuff on. She would just order it because she knew anything she wore, she would look hot in. Okay, remember she said psychologically it was hard to stop using that stuff. It was a blessing in disguise that she was having some skin issues, right? Otherwise she'd still be doing it. And even though she still has some regret. And this is a grown, mature woman. What do you think young people are going to do? So Iguazu's daughter thinks very few have diabetes. Rigorous exercise improves insulin sensitivity and glucose tolerance. So here's a question. I don't know if Iguazu's daughter knows this or anybody else, but when they take some of these drugs that screws up said insulin sensitivity, even if they do cardio, can they still end up with diabetes still? I mean, some of these guys get sleep apnea as a result as well. They didn't have sleep apnea before bodybuilding, but they do now, just based on their size, right? They're just too big. Because you are determined to transform your body, you made it to the end of this video. To get more tips about how to look great and feel even better, check out one of these videos you see on the screen. I'm sure you'll enjoy them. So later's my massive. Me I go long now. For those who don't speak Jamaican patois, that's goodbye, my people.